Welcome to the second episode of my brand new podcast series. And I'm here with Annette Forsythe, who I have had the honor and privilege of introducing today. Annette is a good friend, she is a soul sister, and she is the co-author of our internationally best-selling book together, Journey of Riches in Search of Happiness. And I know that you are just, Annette's going to melt your heart. And she's so inspirational in so many different ways, and she's going to knock your socks off. Annette, thank you so much for agreeing to be my guest today. I know your story. I probably don't know all of your story, and I'm still always looking forward to hearing more. And at the same time, what I do know of your story, it is so freaking inspirational, everything that you have already overcome in your life. So this is a very organic process that I don't have like a whole list of questions I ask. I want to hear from you. The one question that I will ask based on our intent with this podcast, just to get the ball going, is, do you have a time or an area in your life where you've either really wanted to or had to make a change and had to overcome barriers to make that change to improve your life, whether, again, limiting belief systems, fears, your programming, the identity that you were raised with? So that's what it's all about, Annette, and I would love to hear from you. Nothing like putting you on the spot. No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
Okay.
Do I have limiting beliefs? Don't we all?
Yes.
At some point, way, shape, form of another, don't we all? You know, if you ever watched a child play or a child in action, they're absolutely fearless. And sometime between that fearless ball of energy until sometime in between that point and adolescence, college, adulthood, any place in there, things change and we don't become as fearless. And things, because it's life, and we all live real life, things happen. Things are presented to you, and they could be significant emotional events that actually shape who you become. Whether it's something you realize or not. Sometimes it's unconsciously. And I can say, in all truth, that I've certainly had my share of those significant emotional events that shaped who I became. And I've also had the realizations that I could get beyond it and not let them stop me in my tracks, which I had done for a long time. So when I was younger, I adopted the belief that I wasn't good enough. I didn't look the right way. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't worthy. I wasn't, I was shy. So I wasn't my sister, who was very outgoing. I was quiet. There were a lot of things. So that when I put efforts forth, I just, nothing ever seemed good enough. And try as I might, that limiting belief followed me for a very long time. Now, you know, I was independent and outspoken and certainly did, you know, enjoyed. I'm not saying that my childhood or my young adulthood was this pathetic being, because I certainly did things that I wanted to do, and I enjoyed them. But there was always this thing inside that held me back, and never let me take things to the next level. And even after I graduated college and married and had a family, there were still things that followed me that said, this is as good as it's going to get. You have to accept this. You don't deserve to have better. And I have a wonderful husband and a beautiful family, and Lord knows we have been through plenty of real life moments that I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat any of that. But all those things happened, and I had to learn from them. I had to learn that I had control, and when some of those moments happen, when some of that real life happens, you get so caught up in what's happening, you forget that you have the power to overcome them, or you have the means. Not even the word power might even be strong. You have the means to deal with them gracefully, or not so gracefully, but you have the means to get through them. Now, it's your decision how you're going to get through them. If you're going to be a victim, or if you're going to get to the other side. I probably had victim moments. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's a true statement. But I came to a point where I realized I deserved better. And I could accept things that didn't make me happy, or I could put on my big girl pants, as I like to say, and move forward. And remember the feisty, outspoken young woman that I was back in my day. So what happened was I had to dig deep inside, and I had to stop those limiting beliefs. And I had to accept the fact that I had everything I needed right within me. I had the power to do anything I wanted to do in my soul. And after years of burying that power, it wasn't that simple. But if you want something bad enough, you figure it out. Let's just put it that way. If something's important enough to you, you figure it out. And there were things I knew I had to change. And sometimes I had to act before I took 2 seconds to even think about it. Probably like I just did for that Facebook Live we just did. But the beauty of all of this is that I've learned how to get past those moments of absolute terror and act and do what I want to do, and not feel bad that I let myself down again. And that's powerful, because there's nothing worse than feeling like you've let yourself down, and feeling like let yourself down, or feeling like you've let the people you love down. So I had to work on myself. I had to find a place where I believed in myself and believed with what I was capable of doing. And I was the only one who could make those changes. You can never change anybody else. The only thing you can do is change yourself. I learned that a long time ago. And your behavior, the way you change your behavior, is what will inspire change in other people, because they can't react to you the same way. Absolutely. So I had to find that place where I was confident in my skin and in my beliefs, and make all those changes. And then the people around me had to start noticing, and they did. And I'm the same person but I'm a completely different person than I was 5, 10, 20 years ago. I could keep counting, but that would make me feel bad.
We'll just stop right there.
We'll just stop there.
We'll just stop right there. Really quickly, Annette?
I'm sorry?
Just really quickly, I just wanted to interpose here and say, you said a phrase a couple of times that I know you know what it means, I know what it means, but maybe a lot of our readers or listeners don't know what it means. And that is significant emotional event.
Okay. How do you describe a significant emotional event? A significant emotional event is something that happens in your past or your present that has such an impact on you that it's either strengthened you or it's scarred you. And that moment, your response in that moment and the way you feel in that moment is either going to strengthen you or it's going to stay with you for the duration with either a negative or a positive impact. Most of the time, I was going to say most of the time it's negative, but that's not true because it could be the birth of a baby.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be a wedding. It could be something wonderful, or it could be something that shapes how you feel about yourself or gives you a limiting belief. And
you gave a perfect example of giving birth to a baby. I mean, anyone who's given birth to a baby, and Annette, I know you have 4 beautiful daughters. It's like you go through that. That is, the pain alone is a significant emotional event.
This is true.
It's like, I know of very few women. In fact, I don't think I've ever actually met one, not to say that they're not out there, that have not gone through birthing a baby and not had in an immediate identity shift, I am a mother, right? And you can say the same thing you mentioned as a wedding, that a wedding can be such a huge, significant emotional event that you suddenly shift your identity from singlehood to I'm part of a couple now, right? And that shows how you can have a positive, significant emotional event. It could be getting an award, right? For, perhaps in high school you or middle school you won an award for a science fair project, and that changed your identity. Maybe you didn't even want to enter the science fair, and your teacher was like, no, this is a mandatory project, you must do it. You're like, but you get that award, you got a gold medal, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm smart. I'm a science geek in the best way. Like, in other words, I'm a scientist. I did this. Therefore, that may set you on a whole different path than what you ever had in mind before. On the other hand, a significant emotional event could be being bullied in school, having somebody criticize your clothes, perhaps if you came from a poor family. Perhaps it was, being criticized or judged for your size, or wearing glasses, bottle eyes, or, right, there are so many different significant emotional events that can happen, or it might have happened in your family. Maybe your father lost his job and all of a sudden your family went from relative prosperity to crash and burn into bankruptcy and tightening the buckles, and all of a sudden there's scarcity. So that's the significant emotional events. And I just wanted to help people understand, because you were giving such beautiful examples and talking about it. And then of course we know, so when we talk about significant emotional events, Annette, again, you and I know this, the whole point is that your identity. You talked about going from a fearless child to a fearful adult, right? And that's the change in our identity, right? From when we're born, and we expect that we're always going to be loved and supported and taken care of, to this fearful adult. And that massive shift can happen through significant emotional events, or it can happen through just the conditioning, the programming that is instilled in us, perhaps by our parents. Perhaps we see our parents fighting over money. Perhaps we, everything that they say to us, oh, little girls should be seen and not heard, or, all the things that we get taught, or, don't do this because this might happen, or don't do that because, right? A lot of our upbringing is fear-based, well-intentioned fear-based, with a lot of love behind it, and it's still fear-based, right? So that
Absolutely.
we soak that in as children. It can be our church, it can be our community, it could be well, I might want this, but that's not who we are, not our identity, right?
And they can all come from different aspects. They can be positive, they can be negative. They can come one right after the other, after the next, and all of those moments shape how you respond to the next moment. And it's it's not necessarily, they're not necessarily bad things that happen. My latest was becoming a grandma for the second time.
Yeah.
And shift to my identity. I was blessed with 4 daughters. I have 2 grandchildren. Whoever knew my heart could hold this much? And it was instantaneous, this bubble that grew inside. So it's how we take each of these moments and what we do with them that is the important part. It's how we respond, where we find the gratitude. I'm a very firm believer in the fact that everything that happens in your lifetime happens for a reason, when it's supposed to, how it's supposed to, and it's all part of your story. I wouldn't be where I am right now talking to you if I hadn't lived all the things that life handed me. And there were many wonderful, beautiful, happy moments, and there were some very sad and frightening moments. But it's all those moments, one at a time, that built who I am. And the moments that are yet to come will build who I am tomorrow and the next day. So every day is this whole new experience. How am I going to respond? What emotions are going to take me to the next level? I have a lot of conversations with myself. Sometimes it gets really scary. And, today, I realized that I was still getting in my own way. And so I'm on a path, and I realized that some of those fears had stayed hidden. And my hesitancy was because I was the one who was getting in the way. I was not accepting the fact that I was deceiving myself, that, back to the growth vernacular, I was in deception about being in deception with myself. And I had to sit down and have a very stern talk with myself, because this was not acceptable.
So for our listeners, when Annette is talking about deception, that means that your unconscious mind is trying to deceive you because it doesn't want you to change, because it feels that any change is unsafe. and dangerous to you, because let's face it, your unconscious mind is what keeps you breathing regularly, keeps your blood pressure the same, your heart rate the same, your body temperature the same. It likes the same. Even if it's uncomfortable, the same, it's used to that and it knows how to handle that. So we talk about deception, and really that means that it's self-sabotage. And there's many different ways that self-sabotage can show up, right, Annette?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So just want to ask, you said that you realized that you were limiting yourself right now. Would you like to share? Are there some beliefs? Are there some fears that have come up?
Well,
that's getting in your own way?
There have been. I've had some health issues in the past year. Things that caught me by surprise, because that wasn't going to happen to me. You know, I'm pretty stubborn. And I've had to step back and pay attention and listen to my body. And I realized that sometimes when you're given a diagnosis, it's very easy to feel broken. And I'm not broken. And in my subconscious, I was using that along with the fear that came along with it to hold myself back.
So the fear was that you were broken, or the fear was that you couldn't get better?
The fear was of feeling, putting myself in more pain, that I would break more, that I wasn't capable. And that's not true. That's not true, because what you focus on, you find. So instead of paying attention to where I want to be, I was paying attention to where I could end up. But, you know, I've, well, it's probably very corny, but I do find myself using old cliches a lot. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If you don't try, you'll never know.
Yeah.
And you know, as easily as something could go that I could hurt myself more, I could be stronger. And so I've let all of these statements and these comments and these feelings that have come from professionals and friends and myself take more hold than I should have. And I realized that I have more, and even if you are limited someplace in one area, there's still more that you're not limited in. And this struck me over the weekend. And what I realized was, I was just flabbergasted, actually, to realize that here I am again, pointing a finger at something, and those three fingers that point back, man, they can bite. Those three fingers that point back really make you look at things. And so it's an ever constant evolution. And I guess if there was a message I wanted people to really hear, is that, you know, life gives us all challenges, and they can be overwhelming. I mean, we've been through addictions, we've been through layoffs, we've been through some really big real life things, but we've come to the other side. And that's because along the way we had to believe that we could. And I'm saying we, but mostly it was me. I had to believe that we could. And anybody going through all of these things, as frightening as it is, And it gets frightening. I mean, I've held foreclosure papers in my hand. It gets frightening. We had 4 young children and they were threatening to take our home. And what do you do? And how's this? But I was blessed to have a strong faith. And with that faith came the courage to believe that it would be okay. And to this day, and I will joke because I mean, I have a strong faith. I have a strong belief in what I'm capable of, but there are days I do become Pollyanna, and my rose-colored glasses just, I will really dig my heels in and just believe that, oh, this isn't going to happen. And that's not always smart either, because those moments of, but I've learned, it's taken me 62 years to learn that the power of belief and what you want, if you don't see that goal, if you're not working towards a goal, if you're not working towards an end game,
Mm-hmm.
you don't stand a chance. You have to have that belief. And I'm not going to tell you that those little voices are still in my head, the ones that try to say you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not, they're there. I've just had to learn to quiet them and stop that. And because your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind doesn't want to let go of what it knows to be comfortable. And when you reach outside of your comfort zone, when you reach outside of that place, and you reach past the things that are holding you back, what you know to be safe is going to fight like hell to stay alive. But every one of us has it in us to turn it off. And because of that, my life is richer. And my days, every day, I start with a grateful heart. My first words every morning are, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for another day. And I leave my house in the morning and I look around and I listen to the birds singing and I listen to the beauty of what's happening. And right now with the change of the season, it's what we call dark 30 as I leave in the morning. And but I still always take that few minutes just to be aware and to be grateful and to know that I have another day, that I've been given another day to live my best life and to pass that value on any way that I can.
I love it. I love it. Now, Annette, you said a number of things, and I didn't want to interrupt you because you were on a total awesome roll. And just want to go back over some things and highlight them and flesh them out a bit. Number one, I love that the idea of listening to your inner voice, and yet it's listening to the right inner voice, right? It's about knowing that if it makes you feel good, that's a good voice. If it makes you feel icky, that's the bad voice. And it's forgiving yourself that you have this, sometimes you can almost feel like you got this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing going on inside. You almost feel like you got this split personality, this demon, who's like your inner judge and jury, as I call them, your peanut gallery. The beautiful thing to understand is those are not you. Those are just your patterns. The patterns that you have layered on to protect you, that little child growing up who found ways to cope that helped perhaps in the moment and no longer serve. So it's not a matter that you're this bad person because you're stuck or afraid to move forward or afraid of being hurt more. And that could be a physical hurt, It could be an emotional hurt or a psychological hurt, right? In other words, that inner voice, your peanut gallery, is doing its best to keep you safe. And at the same time, it's knowing that's just a pattern. That's just a shield I put up a long time ago, and I no longer need this shield, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I love it. And you also talked about, and I'll paraphrase, being the victim versus the hero of your own story. Right? It's so easy when we get and my friend Jo, who I interviewed last week on the podcast, she talked about the smackdown. When you get the smackdown, right, no matter what causes it, it could be so easy to feel victimized. It's like, why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? It's not fair, right? We could go on and on and on, right? And I loved how you said it's up to us how we respond, right? We're all going to go through any number of challenges or adversity in life, and it's how we respond to it. In fact, you could say it's our responsibility to choose how we respond to it, right? And that's that choosing to be the hero and making this experience work for us rather than against us. Because I have yet to find a victim who's truly happy.
Oh no.
Right?
And it's so human
Mm-hmm.
to take the path of least resistance, right? It's so human. So it's easy to take the low, for lack of a different way to put the low road. It's so easy to take that the path that doesn't have, that's just okay, I can get through this and I'm still going to be here and nothing's going to change or nothing's going to happen, and so that's human nature. But to step aside and choose to be the hero takes some effort. And you can define the hero in a number of different ways, but the bottom line is we're all human beings, and we all have those high moments and we all have those low moments. And even when you live a path that's enlightened and that you're moving towards all these things that you want in your life, you still have those moments. I'm not going to lie to you and sit here and say I never have those moments of fear, because they're there. But it's just knowing how to stop them in their tracks and saying, that's not the way I want to go. I like this other path better. And, we do have it. Nobody is ever really stuck. There's always choices. I have, I had one of my young employees one day, and it was another, if you want to talk about a significant emotional event, it was another moment that so struck me, because here was this young girl at the age of 17 who believed that she could never do better than what she was doing, because look at where she came from.
Yes.
And to feel that defeated at such a young age, just, I guess I'm constantly learning from the people around me. And so what I learned from this child that day, what I learned is you don't have to be stuck. Where you come from, again, hero or victim, use it as your catalyst. Use it as your catalyst for change, or use it as an excuse. So no matter what we do in our daily lives, there's a way you can either do you can do the either or.
Yes.
And isn't it just much better to pick the or and go for the best? When my girls were in high school, and when my oldest was in high school, I should say, and I remember having a conversation with the principal, and she was a lover. She was always a good student and excelled, and I, she was one of the younger people in her class, and being a concerned parent, where should she be? And he just looked at me and said, well, why wouldn't you want her to reach for the stars? Duh. Of course. Why wouldn't you? Of course. So you can apply that to everything. Why wouldn't she want to reach for the stars? And the beauty is, I'm surprised every day at how far I can take it. Reach for the stars, and okay, some days might be status quo, but how many of those days are going to take, are you going to fly high? So it's just so important to be kind to yourself and give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. Yeah, there's things that are scary and can hold you back, but if you don't try, you'll never find out what you're capable of. And it's nice surprise to learn what you can do. It's nice to surprise yourself. I still surprise myself. There's always that opportunity to take one more step and see where it gets you. And I wish I had learned the lesson a long time ago, because I think things would have been very different. It defeats the purpose to be angry at the time that I wasted not feeling good enough. That defeats the purpose. So I celebrate those moments now, and I look at it as, well, that was part of the journey. Like I had said before, everything that's happened in the past is what brings you to this moment. So if I hadn't gone through all those things, if I hadn't lived those moments, I wouldn't be here appreciating how I've gotten past them or what's in store. So now, instead of looking back, I'm all about, what's my next chapter going to be? You just got to reinvent yourself.
There you go.
So, this funky girl's ready for the next chapter. And I can't wait to see what's ahead. And everybody has the power to feel that way. No matter how dire things might feel, there's always the opportunity to believe that it will be better, as long as you're willing to try.
Thank you. That is so amazing, and I love that message. Oh, wow. Like, so many messages, right? There, like, just, where do we start? I love, it's like, I always say, if there's one thing that I could teach, if only one thing, it would be that we all have choice and control. It may not be the choice and control we want, and we all have choice and control. We can leave the situation, leave a job, leave a marriage, extreme, leave this life. It could be that we decide to do nothing and just grouse and complain, and that doing nothing is still a decision and a choice. We can fight the situation, or we can decide to change something to make it more livable, and that something is ourselves. It's our mindset. You can also call it taking the high road. And you said it beautifully. We can never change anyone else. All we ever can do is change ourselves. And I'm trying to remember, there's a phrase. And the interesting thing is, while I'm thinking about that, the interesting thing is that even though we can't force somebody else to change, by changing ourselves, we often end up, whether changing others, whether it's through leading by example or just because we have become so strong and confident in ourselves that we become the leaders and people follow us, or we become the role models for other people. And the phrase was, who are you to think that, if you say to yourself, who am I to change the world? I'm just one person. The fact is, that's all that really ever has changed the world, one person at a time. And I cannot remember who said it. For anyone listening, and you know the author of that quote, please put it down in the comments. I would love to hear it and know, because it'll be bugging me. So thank you. Oh my goodness. Speaking of feisty and outspoken, I can vouch that, Annette, I've known you, a couple of years now?
Yes.
And you are not the same person. You are not the same person. You have morphed into, I won't even just say a beautiful butterfly, which is true. You have morphed into a lioness. Really, really, truly. You have become the leader. You have become the influencer. And yes, you're feisty, and man, oh man, her cooking is out of this world. So she has gone from being the mama, the nurturing mama, to all of that and more. She's now the mama bear. She's the mama lioness. Absolutely. Love it, and I love you. Thank you.
I love you
so much, Annette. And thank you for your inspirational stories, your inspirational words, and the beauty of having regular people, and I mean that in the best way possible, because I feel like I'm a regular person too. And that is, we're not some holier than thou saying, thou shalt do this, and I've never had to deal with it. It's like, no, I've been down in the trenches. I'm still down in the trenches. Maybe some things I'm 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, and you may be ahead of me, right? And that's why I love this co-mentoring. So thank you. I am learning from you too. Appreciate you so much. And I'm just trying to decide, based on everything you said, what the title should be, whether it should be Reach for the Stars or Listen to Your Inner Voice, the good one, that is. Or You Deserve Better. I don't know. We'll have to decide how you would like the title of this to go. Thank you again, Annette Forsythe. I so appreciate you taking the time today to hang out on this interview, this podcast, and on the Facebook Live that we did ahead of this. So you've done double duty. Thank you so much. And I know the listeners have gotten so much out of this.